I'm joined today by Lady Deirdre Dyson at the showroom here on the King's Road. Thank you so much for having us today and for allowing us a sort of insight into the brand and where it came from and your passion for rugs and to share it with some of our followers. Perhaps you could start by telling us a bit about the brand, where it came from, how long you've been in the industry.
I was looking for a rug one day, just a bit further down the King's Road.
Yeah.
I'd looked everywhere. I wanted something contemporary, and this was a good 20 years ago, and I couldn't find anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But there was a new store there selling carpets, and they had a pile of ethnic designs and pretend antiques. And I was just walking out of the door, and he said, "What did you want?" I explained. And he said, well, why don't you draw me what you would like? Yeah. Because we can actually make something for you. Yeah. So I thought, fine. Did that, sent an image down the fax machine. Yeah. A few months later, he delivered the carpet to my house, saw my paintings, saw the colours that I used on the wall. And he said, I've been thinking perhaps some contemporary carpets would be great. Would you like to design some?
To collaborate with them.
Yeah, and so I started doing a collection for him now and then, and got really interested, and I became his partner. Yeah. And he'd always been in travelling the world, still in carpets, and he was getting really bored in the showroom, while I was just coming into London like 1 or 2 days a week, working at home. Yeah,
and, drawing and sketching.
Yeah, he said, I've had enough, I'm going to leave. Yeah. And so I was faced with either taking it over or abandoning it. And I was really enjoying it. Yeah. And I liked the home painting in my studio all the time is very lonely. So I thought I can do both. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at you now. I mean, the products you're producing and the collections that you've put together are absolutely exquisite.
So for me, it's just another form of painting. Yeah. It's another artwork, and my whole thought process is the same, except that the material they're made is different, and I'm not actually having to do the labour part. Yeah.
And what's your favourite part of the process? Is it the design? Is it the production?
The design. Yeah. Definitely the
design. So you must be very excited by clients who are embarking on a commission and sort of discovering that for the first time.
Yes. Work with architects a lot, so much more now than originally. And they quite often like to have one of my carpets in their final product showroom. Yes. Ad, which is good for us. So I will design for their scheme so that it works with everything that they've chosen.
So they will come with the renderings and the drawings, the floor plans, some of the key pieces of furniture, and you'll be inspired
show me bits of fabric and everything, and otherwise I just do my own designs, and all our other clients that come to me choose one of my designs. Yeah. Very rarely do they want to
commission and design it themselves.
Some interior designers do. They take one design, but they want it extended through halls and other rooms.
And maybe change the colours and make it work with the scheme.
We can change absolutely anything.
And what advice would you give to an end user, not using an architect or a designer, coming into the showroom and embarking on or about to commission a rug from you, but does that sort of fear or anxiety, as you would when you walk in and you're like, oh, I'm about to, invest into a piece that's going to be with us for a long time, and how do you overcome the nervousness in sort of saying, yes, I can't see the finished product, but yes, I'm commissioning it and altering the colours and the dimensions and the size?
Well, it's a step-by-step process. So they would come in first of all, just have a look. Maybe they've seen the designs on the web. And so we just take them round and just show them how they're made and how we can change them. We can show them one design, we can show on the computer that done in different colours and everything.
So
and then we say, have you got any idea of the room it's going to go in and what colours you like? Would you like to give us some fabric samples or some paint samples?
Yeah.
And then we show them our 5,000
different pom-pom
colours in silk and wool, which is always inspiring just by itself. Wow, it's fantastic.
Overwhelming.
Exactly. So then they might go away. And we say, look, this is a collaboration. We do it with you. It's going to be your carpet, so you're helping us create this just for you. And it's fun. It's not frightening.
No.
It's a collaboration.
I guess it's making sure you work with a brand and a designer that understands how to engage with the end user like you do, and you sort of perfected that skill and that quality of service.
And my whole team. Experts at helping. They will go to people's houses with the colours. We make it as easy and as safe as we possibly can. We print their carpet in accurate colour so they can go home with this image and check that it's all as they would like it to be. Everything is double checked before they sign the dotted line, as it were.
And one of the questions we get a lot from our clients is the material. So silk, wool, different blends. Have you advice for particular materials in particular settings and for particular usages? What have you learned over the years and sort of your takeaway?
I just stick to pure wool and pure silk because I think that anything that isn't pure wool has a sort of static quality which actually attracts dirt and is harder to clean. So
important. I'm a dog owner, so putting something on the floor that I can actually clean and doesn't keep and embed or embody the smell of the dogs is important to me.
Exactly. But they're heirloom quality. They really do last a very, very long time. And as long as you vacuum them regularly, you shouldn't have any problems at all.
Amazing. Have you a particular collection that you're most proud of, or something from the current collection that really stands out?
Actually, these three that you've half pulled out here, I mean, this was last year's theme, because I do a theme every year. This year it's paper. But last year I decided to try and do something with glass.
So it's almost like the painted or panes of glass.
You had overlapping colours and using silk.
To give you the different light reflections.
Gave you the feeling that you were actually looking through this piece, was overlapping this piece which created that colour. It was a very successful collection, because it was very bright and colourful, caught the eye.
Yeah.
But even I was surprised at the three-dimensional
quality
effect
of them.
that just using the silk and getting the colours absolutely right where they cross over. And even this really simple design here is just grading the colour so that it got darker as it went
50
down
shades
the
of pink.
carpet. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it's a wonderful colour.
just this actually is part of this year's collection. It's paper, because it's just folded paper.
Very nice.
And just cutting this.
And it's silk and wool?
Yeah, so that just gives the illusion that the light is on top of a step.
You must be continuously torn at home and wanting to change your rugs every time you release a new collection. Do you have to pinch yourself and say, no, you don't change them?
No, I've got 20-year-old ones there. They're still looking brand new.
I would be continuously changing what's in my house every time I'd see a new collection.
Yeah, I suppose it is a temptation, but There's not, I think as long as you're really happy
Yeah.
day one,
Yeah.
you
love it.
don't stop being happy.
Or the
with
dogs
that
haven't burrowed a
carpet.
hole in it, or the cats haven't pulled the threads out.
Yeah.
Well,
no.
thank you so much for your time. I know we're going to explore the collection a little more with your colleague Edison after this.
Good.
But thank you for your time and
No,
for
thank you for
the
talking
introduction
to
to
me.
the brand.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm joined now by Edison, brand manager, office manager,
Company manager, yeah. Do a bit of
here at
everything.
Deirdre Dyson on the King's Road. We're standing in front of love letter.
Love letters.
It's inspired by, of course, the love letters that Edison has been writing to me over the last year. Because I'm in desperate need of them. Take note, everybody. Maybe you could tell me a bit about the collection and what we're looking at.
Well, this year the collection is titled Paper and Stone. It was basically around Deirdre's observation during lockdown, obviously using things that were close by her in the studio, namely, obviously, paper. So it was a little bit of a development because Deirdre had touched on that theme some years ago. So it just felt very natural and very simple and pretty much in line with the sentiment of the last year lockdown, people being at home. So it's just observations of paper, torn,
Folded,
scrunched,
yeah.
all that type of thing, and obviously hinting of a little story behind it. Obviously, with this one, it being titled "Love Letters," it's a torn bit of paper. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Who knows?
Love letter
So,
gone wrong.
That's
the
right.
kisses and hugs.
The kisses
I see
and hugs, exactly.
sort of disassembled or deconstructed in the pattern.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll probably notice through most of Deirdre's designs there is very little repeat pattern as such, and if there is, then it's usually interrupted in some form.
Okay.
So nothing is ever the same from one part to the other.
And I don't know the answer to this because I haven't had a relationship long enough, but is paper and stone a particular celebration or a milestone on wedding anniversaries when people have been together long enough? Does paper celebrate am I right in assuming it's like year one is paper and stone is for something else? I don't know. Maybe,
Could be.
Maybe,
Who knows?
Maybe
I
the
have
stone
no
is the diamond.
I'm not
I'm
married
going to have to
myself,
look
so-
it up when I go home. So we've come upstairs here in the Deirdre Dyson showroom on the King's Road. Before we talk about some of the other pieces in the collection, top tips. What should somebody look out for or strive to achieve?
Consider.
Yeah.
Definitely one thing I would recommend is to take your rug as large as possible.
Bigger is always better.
Bigger is
Heard
always
that
better.
here first.
It really just kind of sets off the space and helps zone an area.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Okay. Do you find it difficult to try and get clients there? Are they afraid of the size and the scale? Are there ways in which they can imagine or sort of visualize it in a space to be able to commit to such a purchase? Because
Sure, I mean,
obviously bigger is also more expensive.
Sure, I mean, people will come in and they'll have a fixed size, say, in their heads, but once we kind of do a floor plan and show them the overall effect, then, we are able to convince them with that, because there's nothing worse than having furniture that's half on or half off a carpet.
Yeah. Talk me through some of the pieces that we're looking at up here and what we've got in the
Okay, well,
collection.
this one is from our mosaic collection.
Okay.
This was several years ago now, but as you can see, it is based on mosaic patterns that you would find on floors and walls. This is particularly interesting because although it's not graded as such, there is a step in colour tone, so it gives you that feel without it necessarily being graded. All the mosaics here are in silk, and all the grouting is in wool. And as you can see from the back, which is the best place to study a carpet and the quality, is by the knotting. So you can see here how each individual piece is done
Has been
separately.
hand knotted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very, very time consuming. So something like that or graded is the most time consuming of all the processes. Again,
When you're looking at something like this,
yes.
obviously the direction you lay the rug makes a difference in some
It would
in some
do because
cases.
there is a natural flow to the pile.
Yeah.
So
So
we
it'll look darker from one side.
It will do. So we always recommend that the greatest light source is always going with the
grain.
pile.
Okay.
And not against it, because
Yep.
otherwise you tend to get a more matting effect.
Okay.
Yeah. This, talking about the grading, as you can see here, it's light to dark. So again, that's very, very time consuming
Yep.
in the hand knotting process, because every single, section,
Is
then has
done
to
by hand.
be a gradual change of colour.
To produce something this size, how long does it take?
Say about, normally about 14, 16 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really labour intensive.
That's from sign-off, and you'd normally get on a width of that, which is what, 1.70 m, is probably about 2 people working on that carpet at one time.
Okay. So they're literally working in parallel,
They'll
sitting,
be literally side by side,
and
like
they'll
this.
work their way through it, and the carpet
they would
drops.
always be the same people working on that particular rug.
So they'd know where they were starting, so they would know exactly whether they were in the colour.
Yeah, and also it's the quality of the knotting. So it's a bit like having a tailored suit. You know, you go to a particular tailor because they just know how to do it that way.
Your hairdresser.
Or your hairdresser, for example, absolutely. So it would always be the same people working on that rug.
Okay. And then from more recent collections, what?
For more recent collections,
we've got the paper which you've already visited downstairs.
Exactly.
And then,
well, I do have one example here. It's not from this year's collection. This was done, I would say, a good 10 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
And this was one of Deirdre's first studies of folded paper. So you can see a natural development from one collection to another, and often Deirdre will sort of revisit something she's done in the past and then extends on that.
And within this piece, of course, you've got the different techniques.
Exactly. That's a loop pile, and this is just a standard hand-cut pile. But this one is 100% wool. So again, with regard to the carpet's choice of materials, Deirdre works with wool and silk. The more silk you have in a carpet, then again, the higher the pricing ratio. Yeah. Whereas this is obviously wool, so it's but wool equally durable. People think silk is not as strong as wool.
Well, I mean, think of the sheep in the fields.
But wool is easier to maintain long term. Yeah.
Amazing. If you were specifying for a pet-friendly household, would you be more inclined to specify silk or wool, or is it a blend preferable?
I would probably suggest 100% wool, or something with a low silk content. It's just unfortunately silk doesn't have natural oils, which wool would do, and that naturally protects it from staining long term. It's just easier to maintain. But the strength-wise, silk has no difference.
Amazing. And typical time it would take for a customer to specify and go through a commissioning process on something like this. So if they were speccing it to their own colour scheme, how long does the process sort of entail?
To be honest, that's really open-ended. That will take as long as it takes. And being a part of that service and bespoke service, we're happy for it to be as long as it takes.
So you will engage with them and do a rendering and a printout. And then, of course, you'll have... do you produce the samples as well?
We can do if they require, if they need to have a sign-off. But you know, we're here to guide customers. So you know, sometimes they come in with ideas, but they may have not considered other options. And so we just like to put all the cards on the table and then slowly work from that and you know, come to a conclusion.
Amazing. Well, you've got wonderful products here on display, and
Thank
I think really it's only when people come into the showroom for this sort of immersive experience and to ask the questions at sort of the front of their mind, and everybody will have individual questions and individual requirements. It's only then they sort of will have the confidence to move forward and specify something like that.
That's right, absolutely, yeah. And then obviously, you know, working with digital, you know, we produce everything digitally, so we can do renders. So people do get to see almost like a photograph of a finished piece before anything goes into production.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.